Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of Skin Type Talks, where our goal is to discuss skin type challenges and how to combat them. My name is Lauren Suarez, and I'll be hosting today's episode alongside my co-host, Jules Herrero. Joining us today is Dr. Leslie Baumann, dermatologist, best-selling author, and creator of the Baumann Skin Typing System. And for today's episode, we are going to be discussing the 4 barriers to skin health and the 16 Baumann skin types. I'd love to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. B. What exactly are the 4 barriers to skin health, and why are there 16 Baumann skin types?
Hi, everyone. I'm a dermatologist in Miami Beach, and in 2005, I wrote a book called The Skin Type Solutions, which is the first time we unveiled the 16 Baumann skin types. I've been using these in my medical practice since I was at the University of Miami, and I invented the system to make my practice more efficient so that my staff would be able to help me figure out what people's skin type is and figure out what the skincare regimen should be. I'm a specialist in skincare. I love skincare. I know a lot about skincare, and I wanted to figure out a way to take that knowledge and help other people. So what I did is I divided people into 16 different skin types. So as Lauren was asking me, how do you come up with 16? And basically, there are 4 main issues that I call barriers to skin health. There are 4 things that make your skin not be as healthy as it could. And the first one is dehydration. The second is inflammation. The third is uneven pigmentation. And the fourth is aging. So that's what we should talk about today, are these 4 barriers to skin health.
And Dr. B, so what are the 16 Baumann skin types?
Well, if you look at the picture here, you can see there are 16 different ones, and they're all made of different combinations of these different barriers to skin health.
I know that you said it's dehydration, inflammation, pigmentation, and aging. Could you give us like a more detailed description of each?
Sure. So first of all, let's talk about what everybody's skin type is, so I can show everyone, so I know what your skin types are. So I'm a DSNW. So that means I have dehydration, inflammation, and aging. Lauren, what is your skin type?
I'm an OSPW, so I'm oily, sensitive. My sensitivities are rosacea and acne, and I'm pigmented and wrinkle-prone. So I know that Jules has the same skin type as me, right?
Yes, I'm also a 7, so I'm OSPW, oily, sensitive, pigmented, and wrinkle prone, and my sensitivity is acne, so I have 3 of the 4 barriers to skin health.
So we all have 3 barriers to skin health, but we have different ones. So we'll start with the first one. That's dehydration. I'm the only one of the 3 of us that has dehydration. And what that means is my skin barrier doesn't work properly, or I have little holes in my skin. And that lets water evaporate out of my skin, and it lets bad things like allergens and soaps and things like that get in my skin. So I have a problem with dehydration. It's healthier to be what you two have, which is an oily type. And that means that you make enough sebum. Sebum is oil. Oil's made of lipids. So you'll hear people call it lipids or sebum or oil. But basically, you make, from your sebaceous glands that are down inside your hair follicles, you make enough oil to coat the surface of your skin. So whether your barrier is disrupted or not, it gets solved by the fact that you have oil on top of your skin that plugs in those little holes. So that's why you don't get dehydration. That's why water doesn't evaporate off of your skin. And that's why you're considered, as far as oily and dry, you're considered a healthier skin type than me.
So that basically means that it's better to have oily skin. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so I'm glad you asked that, because in the Baumann skin typing system, oily skin, you could be very oily or regularly oily, but regularly oily is what everybody else calls normal skin. So normal skin, it makes enough oil, and so it's considered an oily skin type in the Baumann skin typing system. The reason it's set up this way is because the Baumann skin types, their sole purpose is to help you figure out what skincare products are right for your skin type. That on the face. So it's all about the face. So if you already are making enough oil, you don't need a lot of excess oil in your skincare products. So if you have normal skin, we're calling you oily because you already have enough oil on your skin and you don't need it in your skincare products. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
It's a spectrum in a way.
We go by oily versus dry. Now, some people might say, oh, I have combination. But what they really are saying is that their T-zone is oily. And that makes you an oily type because you're making enough sebum.
So I understand the difference between having dry skin and oily skin. So what does it mean when you're sensitive? So what's the difference between being sensitive and resistant? I know I get a ton of questions about that. And somehow people assume that being resistant has a negative connotation, but what is your take on that, Dr. B?
So being resistant is what you want. It means that your skin is tough and resilient and resistant to outside problems. You're not as likely to get inflammation. All three of us have inflammation. So we're all three have the second barrier. And that second barrier, whenever you have inflammation, you can also say that you have sensitive skin. They go together. Sensitive skin that is more likely to get inflammation. Resistant skin is resistant to inflammation. So that is where the names come from. Now, there are four kinds of sensitive skin. There's people who get pimples, which so you could call acne. There are people that get redness, which you could call rosacea. There are people that burn and sting from things. That so did you, I don't know if you know that if you I could put something on that stings and then you would put it on and it might not sting. So not everybody is what we call a stinger. And then the fourth one is the allergic or irritant skin type. And that is when you get rashes from things often that you put on your skin. Sometimes you're allergic or sometimes it's just something that irritates you. But those are the four kinds of sensitive skin. I have all four sensitive types. I get red, I get pimples, I sting, I get rashes, which obviously is why I created the Baumann skin typing system because I have trouble with skincare. So I'm trying to, from what I learned, help everybody else. And then, Lauren, you're more of a rosacea type, right? And Jules is more of an acne type.
Exactly.
Correct. Yes. And that's funny that you say that. And I'm glad that you said that you have all the sensitivities because people always assume that you have perfect skin and that you can use all products. But I'm sure that it's very refreshing and it also allows people to connect with you because they see you and, they think, oh, Dr. Baumann has perfect skin. So
Well, if
it's
they
good
saw
to.
me in real life, like in my Pilates class or my dance class, I often have red spots or pimples or something because companies send me products all the time. I get products like maybe 10 products a week and I try them and most of them bother me. And I'm doing it for science, really if you have my skin type you should figure out what works and you should stick with it and you should never change. But it's my job to try everything out and see, how they work. So I always joke that if I can handle it, anyone can handle it. So I'm kind of the beta tester for sensitive skin to see who's going to get a rash.
You're the official guinea pig for sensitive skin types. I love it.
Exactly.
So, and the next barrier to skin health would be pigmented skin versus non-pigmented. So, what goes into that, and how would you be considered in the Bauman skin typing system, pigmented versus non-pigmented?
Okay, so really we go by pigmented means uneven skin pigment, and non pigmented is no uneven skin pigment. So again, I'm different than the two of you. I'm a non pigmented type, and you're both pigmented types, which means that you have brown spots on your skin that you want to get rid of. And I don't. It's hard for me to tan. I really don't get brown spots. So what that means, remember, the Bauman skin typing system is its sole purpose is to help you choose the right skincare for your face. So what this means is if you have an uneven skin tone, we call that a pigmented type, you need skin lightening ingredients to even out the color. So whether you have melasma or brown spots after your pimples or some kind of inflammation that left brown on you, you want skin lightening ingredients. A non-pigmented type like me doesn't need those. So that's where it comes in. Now, obviously, you can vary between the two. So you can see right now that I don't see brown spots on either one of the two of you. So you both have cleared those up. So technically, right now, you're a non-pigmented skin type, which brings me to something we'll talk about later is your skin type can change. So your skincare regimen is going to change as your skin type changes. But we'll talk about that in a little bit because I think that's a very important point.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So the fourth barrier is aging, which is a hot topic for everybody. Nobody wants to age. Everybody wants to age gracefully. So what exactly does it mean to be wrinkle prone? And can you be wrinkle prone even if you're in your 20s?
So I have a funny story to tell you about this barrier to skin health. So when the book came out in 2005, we didn't call it wrinkle prone, we called it wrinkled. People would cheat on the test. Even my mom cheated on the test so she would come out a tight type, and I would be like, how did you come out a tight type, Mom? You're 70 years old. So we figured out people don't want to be called a wrinkle type, so we changed it to wrinkle prone. But
Right.
what it means is that you need anti-aging ingredients, because talking about how to choose skincare doesn't mean you have wrinkles now. It means you need anti-aging ingredients. So I'm always asked, what age do I need to start using my anti-aging products? So if you're 30 years or older, you should be on anti-aging. If you're 30 years or younger and you have more than 3 bad habits, you need to get on anti-aging. And sometimes you can't avoid the bad habits.
Right.
So let's say you're an 18-year-old tennis player. You're in the sun every day. You put your sunscreen on, but you're at a higher risk for aging because you're getting sun playing tennis. You want to get on anti-aging products. Let's say you're 30 and you've never been in the sun ever, and you're just super careful. Then you don't need to really start until you actually turn 30. And that's just a rough estimate of what I've seen in my practice and when I start to see changes. And the interesting thing about anti-aging products is when you first start using them, you don't look younger than other people your age. So if you're in your 20s and you start using them, you're not going to look like you're 15. And when you're 30 and you start using them, you're not going to look like you're 20. But when you're 40, you're going to look so different than your other 40-year-olds. When you're 50, I'm in my 50s, it's a shocking difference.
Yeah.
But you have to start back in your 20s or your 30s. You have to start when you have those habits. So be honest on the questionnaire when you answer those questions, because it's not there to diss you and make you feel bad about yourself. It's to help identify those of you who need anti-aging ingredients so we can keep you looking great the way you already do. It's all about
Right.
prevention.
It's all about prevention
Of
and,
course.
and maintaining your
Mhm.
youth, essentially, right?
Mhm.
Everybody wants to
Right.
stay looking good.
And we're all 3 wrinkle prone types, and
Yep.
really I don't see very many wrinkles on any of us.
I want to devote an episode of Skin Type Talks all about injectables and, because that's another hot topic. Like, when can you start
Mhm.
using Botox and, you know, will it make you look
Or just
frozen?
or any toxin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I do
Mhm.
all the FDA trials on all the toxins in the fillers, so we'll have a lot to talk about when we get to it.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's like
That's very
probably the most
exciting.
exciting part about it.
Mhm.
um, okay, so now that we've gone through all of the barriers to skin health, um, we want to basically ask you, why does the order in which you treat the barriers matter? So I know that you've said in the past, like treating pigmentation you can't treat pigmentation before dehydration, for example. So why? Why is that so?
Okay, so this is the thing. There's only so many skincare products you can put on your face in a day, because they
Mhm.
all start to mix together and they're not, going to work properly. So
Mhm.
we have to figure out what to treat first. So in my medical practice, I usually see patients once a month. I take their pictures, I look under the camera so I can see what's going on. And what I've learned over the last 25 years is that if you don't treat dehydration, you can't get anything else better, because dehydration, remember, means you have little holes in your skin, means bad things are getting into the skin and causing inflammation. Once you can be dry and not have inflammation, but that's not really that common. A lot of dry people end up getting inflammation at some point. So once you get inflammation, that turns on these cells called melanocytes that make color. That's their job, is to respond to inflammation. That's why you get something called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, means brown spots where you had inflammation. That's why you get brown spots after a pimple. That's the inflammation turning on the pigment. So if you don't treat your inflammation, you can't get rid of your pigmentation. Same thing with wrinkles. One of the major things that causes aging is inflammation. In fact, some scientists call it inflammaging. I don't know. It's a hard word to say, but it's inflammaging. And basically, a lot of the aging that we see, not just our skin, but our body, is from inflammation. That's why obese people who have more fat, the more body fat you have, the more inflammation your body has. And that's why people who are obese have a shorter lifespan. Inflammation causes all kinds of bad things like diabetes and heart disease and Alzheimer's, but it also causes wrinkles. So, wrinkles is what we're caring about today. So, that is why inflammation is bad for wrinkles. So, if you're using a product to lighten your spots, but you're dehydrated, the chances of that skin lightening ingredient, because they can be very irritating, the chances of that skin lightening ingredient irritating a dry skin type is so high that it's much better. The way I treat my patients is I focus first on dehydration and inflammation, and when I calm that down, then I add their skin lightening and their anti-aging products.
Got it. Each skin type has 4 letters. You want to go from the first letter to the last one, correct?
Right, it goes in that order. So DSNW is dry sensitives first. You treat that first. And the goal is to turn your skin to a healthier skin type.
So let's say the skin type that has all 4 barriers to skin health is number 3, correct? DSPW.
That's the hardest one.
That's the hardest one to treat. So just as there is the hardest skin type, or the, how would you say without, because I know it's the most common, correct?
It is, well, in a dermatology office, it's the most common we see because people have usually DSPWs cannot treat their own skin. They get frustrated, especially if it's acne, and they end up coming to a dermatologist. So DSPWs we see a lot in a dermatology practice.
So what is is there an ideal skin type, or what is the end goal of the skin typing system? Or what is the goal?
Well, the ideal skin type would not have any of those barriers to skin health. It would have the opposite. So if you think about each one, instead of being dehydrated, it would be hydrated. Instead of being sensitive, it would be resistant. Instead of being pigmented, it would have no uneven pigment. And instead of aging, I had to come up with a word that was a different letter, so I came up with tight. So because you're not wrinkled, you're tight. Now,
Right.
everyone's like, "Do I feel tight?" But it's because we needed a different letter because we had already used N for no uneven skin tone. So you want to be an ORNT, which happens to be skin type 10. And it's funny when I did this back in 2005, I didn't realize that I had we did it alphabetically and the way the colors are, all these cool ways, but we didn't on purpose make the perfect skin type to be 10. And it's funny because it was meant to be, because it was green, like go, first of all, is the color, and it's 10, like perfect 10. So it's easy to remember. You have perfect 10 skin. Now, you can't get perfect 10 skin if you're over 30 because you need to be on anti aging ingredients. You would be number 12, which is one step before that. So don't be upset. 12 is if you're over 30, as far as you can go. But if you're under 30, you should be shooting for 10.
The skin typing system is supposed to make your skin act like the perfect skin type or the ideal skin type, which is ORNT, right?
Right. So you may not have any wrinkles. You may be using all the right things, using Botox and fillers and things like that, but you're still considered a wrinkle-prone type because you want to be an anti-aging ingredient.
So, what Baumann skin type does somebody have if they have acne?
So if they have acne, they're a sensitive skin type. Every other parameter isn't dependent on that. So you could be acne and be dry, or you could be oily. You're going to need very different skincare products. If you're dry, you're not going to handle the retinoids and the benzoyl peroxide. If you're oily, you will. So if you have acne and you're a pigmented type, then you're going to need acne medications that help lighten the dark spots. If you're a non-pigmented type, you're not going to get dark spots after your pimples. If you are an acne type and you're wrinkle prone, like people in their 40s often are saying, "I'm too old, why am I getting acne?" They need anti-aging and they need acne medications. So you see, it's acne is just one little bit of the whole picture, and that's what people do wrong. Is when they shop for skincare, you go under skin type, and people go acne, and then they buy something.
They're
That is
just
not
treating one barrier, essentially,
right.
and there's 4 barriers. So, and that's what a lot of people don't seem to realize. You know, they're shopping for the wrong skincare and they're wasting their money, and this really just streamlines that whole entire process.
And my
Yes.
goal with the Baumann skin typing system is to change the way you shop for skincare. I want everyone to think about their 4 barriers when they shop, or which barriers they have when they shop, so that they will not be wasting their time and money on the wrong stuff. They'll get a much better result if they know their skin type and they know what to look for.
Right.
Yeah, and I know a common thought amongst friends or people that they think about skincare and they assume, oh, you either have dry skin, oily skin, and then acne, and they think if you have oily skin, then you have acne.
Right.
And
so true.
that's a very common misconception. And I know that Dr. B, you always explain how most of the times it's tied to inflammation, and in other cases, there's hormones, and especially if you're give birth, there's a lot of other factors that come into play. So Dr. B, I have a question in regards to inflammation and sensitivity. So how do you know if you're dealing with inflammation? Like, what are the number one signs?
Well, when you take the quiz, it will tell you, but basically inflammation is either pimples or redness or stinging and burning or rashes.
Okay.
So inflammation basically is your blood vessels dilate. That means there's more blood, so you look red. And they get leaky, so fluid can come out, and that can make you itchy and swollen when you get a rash. So that's what inflammation is. But it's those 4 types of sensitive skin are all inflammation. They're all just caused by different things, but they're all inflammation. So if you have any of those issues, pimples, redness, stinging, or rashes, then you have inflammation. If you don't have those things, then you don't have it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then in regards to pigmentation, which is the third barrier to skin health, why is it that heat exacerbates pigmentation, and what are a few of the best treatment options, whether those be at home or in office, that someone with hyperpigmentation or melasma should be diligent about using?
The cells that make color, which are called melanocytes, they get turned on by a lot of things, mostly light, ultraviolet light, hormones will do it, but even blue light, light from your computer screen, and heat is infrared light. So infrared light turns on those cells, and that's why you shouldn't be getting heat at all. So I had a patient once who was a chef who had really bad melasma. We were having trouble clearing her up. Couldn't figure out what it was. She wasn't going in the sun at all, but it turns out she was looking in those hot ovens all day. So once she learned to put her face back when she opened the oven, it solved the problem. So heat is infrared light.
So saunas, for example, steam rooms, like typically you would hear that those things are good for your skin. A lot of people use that to like open your pores. Are those things actually just bad and like they're going to exacerbate your pigment?
If you have pigmentation, you should avoid those. Yeah. In fact, if you're working out somewhere hot, having a cold bottle of water that you can kind of roll on your face, like you can stick a bottle of water in the freezer and get it frozen, and then as it starts to melt a little bit, it gets colder, and you can rub that on your face. That'll help too. Too much cold can burn your skin. So sure, it's good for pigmented, but if you have sensitive skin, you have to be careful with really cold as well. If you have melasma that you can't control, that's very frustrating to you, you should avoid heat to your face.
So to kind of summarize, or the main takeaway from today's conversation or today's episode, so how important is it to know your Baumann skin type, and how often should you retake the questionnaire?
In my opinion, if you don't know your Baumann skin type and you're buying skincare products, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you don't know what your needs are. If you want a customized regimen that is right for your type, you need to first diagnose your Baumann skin type. 80% of people are wrong when they guess, so you have to take the quiz. I've spent years validating it, making sure that it's accurate, so that I needed to know other people would diagnose themselves properly. So take the quiz, know your skin type, buy products according to what your barriers to skin health are. Now, if your skincare quits working for you, like let's say you get pregnant or you move to a different geography, like it's dry and you moved from a humid place, or maybe you live in a dry part of the one time of the year and a humid part the other time of the year, or all of a sudden you got a stressful job and your stress levels change. All those things can change your skin type. So when your skincare quits working, you should retake the quiz. And if your skin changes, you should retake the quiz. And even if everything's great, I would suggest that you retake the quiz every year just to make sure, because things, definitely your aging habits can change and things like that. And hopefully, if you're doing the right skincare, you're going to see your skin type change for the better. You might not need all those expensive, anti-inflammatory ingredients if you're actually using products that aren't causing inflammation. So you're going to see your skin gets easier to take care of when you use the right skincare.
That about wraps up this episode of Skin Type Talks. Thank you all so much for watching, and make sure to leave any comments or questions down below for future episodes. And if you liked this video and you enjoy our Skin Type Talks, don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure to give it a thumbs up.
And maybe you want to be on an episode, so tell us what your skin type is and we'll interview you.
Yes, we're definitely going to give people, our audience, the opportunity to join in on future episodes. So keep an eye out on our socials for a chance to be a part of one of our Skin Type Talks. All right. Thank you all so much for joining, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.